Welcome to Plutus IAS. So this is Murali. So here in this lecture, we'll discuss the topic British expansion in India. Okay, so this is part of your modern Indian history syllabus, and a very important topic because it discusses about the beginning of how the British established their political rule in India, how they have begun, right? So that is British expansion in India. See, looking at the British expansion in India, so we can speak about two process of British expansion in India, right? So one is that is through different policies, like here we're referring to political policies, and other method is through direct conquest, right? As you know, the East Indian Company came to India in 1600, or they set up this corporation in 1600, and from 1608 they started to have established their settlements in India, right? And gradually the East Indian Company have grown rapidly in India. So that is a well-known fact, and gradually over a period of time, particularly coming to the period of 18th century, from 18th century onwards, they began to annex many territories of India. So how did they got control over Indian territories? Either through the policies or through direct conquest. So that's what we discuss this topic as British political expansion in India, right? So let us see that. See, basically if you see about policies, so predominantly we have to speak about four policies here. So what are they? Policy of ring fence, policy of subordinate isolation, policy of subordinate union, and policy of equal federation. Got it? So speaking about British political expansion in India through policies, so these are the four ones. That is policy of ring fence 1757 to 1813, 1813 to 1858, 1858 to 1935, 1935 to 1947, right? So these are the four policies. So let us say one by one. Policy of ring fence. So what is this ring fence policy? This policy says that under this policy, the British will keep a friendly Indian state as a buffer state against an enemy state. Let us take example of Awadh. Okay, here after Battle of Buxar, when Awadh was also defeated, they did not directly annex Awadh. Instead, Awadh was kept as a buffer state. So they had control over Bengal, and let us say this is Marathas. So here in this example, Bengal is a state of British, which is under direct control of British, where Marathas is a enemy state. So what they have done after defeating Awadh, they did not directly annex Awadh. Instead of that, they have kept Awadh as a buffer state. So this acts as a buffer against enemy state. Simple. The concept is to protect their own state. To protect their own state, they kept another friendly Indian state as a buffer state against an enemy Indian state. So that is the concept of policy of ring fence. So many states like Hyderabad was kept as buffer state, Awadh was kept as buffer state. So this protected the British interest, right? So that is policy of ring fence. So this policy was followed from 1757 to 1813, where under this many states were kept as buffer states. Okay. So coming to policy of subordinate isolation. What is this policy? Under this policy, the British have made many Indian states. That means many Indian princes should work in subordinate cooperation. They work in subordinate cooperation with the British. Understood? So under this policy, the Indian states or Indian rulers have to work in subordinate cooperation with the British. So that is, in fact, we can say this is the beginning of British paramountcy. What is this? Under this policy, these Indian princes will have control over internal administration, but they have to give up control over external affairs. So that means internal administration will be dealt by Indian princes, but external affairs will be dealt by the company, right? So this is called as the policy of subordinate isolation. That means under this policy, the Indian princes should work in subordinate cooperation with the company, in which they will control only internal administration, but external matters will be given to the company only, right? So this is another policy to control Indian states. An extension of this policy was policy of subordinate union. See, as we know, in 1858, under Government of India Act, the rule was transferred from company to crown. So this we already know. So in 1858, company rule was ended and the political power was transferred to crown. So that means now these Indian princely states were now under crown. So under this policy, these Indian princely states should work, earlier expected to work, but now they should work in subordinate cooperation with the crown, right? So this is the policy of subordinate union. So in the earlier policy, the princes were expected to work in subordinate cooperation with the company. Here the Indian princes should work in subordinate cooperation with the crown. So here they will control their internal matters, but they will be under the paramountcy of British crown. You got it? So that is the policy of subordinate union. And the last one is policy of equal federation. So in fact, it was introduced after Government of India Act 1935. So what happened in Government of India Act 1935 established All India Federation. So this act established All India Federation, that is All India Federation with British provinces and princely states. So the All India Federation consists of British provinces and princely states. So in this, both British provinces and princely states will be given representation in the council. Okay, so that is what this policy of equal federation. So it means princely states also became the federal units under All India Federation. So these are the different policies that adopted by British India to control various Indian states. But apart from all this, there are two most important policies, that is, one is subsidiary alliance system and the other is doctrine of lapse. Actually, these two policies were very frequently asked in examination, both in prelims and mains, because it established the British supremacy in India over in Indian princely states. So let us say these two separately. So what is this subsidiary alliance system? I will tell you simply. For suppose it was, let us say, an agreement between British and Indian ruler. Under the subsidiary alliance system, any Indian ruler who signs this agreement with the British, first of all, they have to give up their own troops, that is, they have to give up their own army and should accept stationing of British army in their territory, right? So that is one condition. Second condition is they have to give or they have to maintain expenses of such army. If they fail to provide such money, they have to cede some territory to the British. The next condition is they cannot sign or enter into any treaty with any other European power or even Indian ruler. They cannot employ any other European in their court, and they should accept placing a British resident in their court. So what are they? So once an Indian ruler signs this subsidiary alliance treaty, that means he should accept stationing of British troops in his kingdom. He should accept to keep a British resident in his court. Cannot make treaties, cannot employ any other European in his court. So for these troops, he have to make money, or he have to pay money for the expenses, and he cannot enter into treaties or he cannot employ any other European without the permission of British. So this, if you observe carefully, if any Indian ruler signs this subsidiary alliance system, that means he virtually loses his independence. So virtually losing independence means, for just namesake, he will be the ruler, but everything else will be controlled by the British. So that policy is called as subsidiary alliance system. Coming to another one, that is doctrine of lapse. What is this doctrine of lapse? It is another policy that is introduced by Dalhousie. So under this policy says that any native Indian ruler who dies without a natural heir, right? If any Indian ruler dies without a natural successor, then such state cannot be inherited by an adopted son. Understood? So what does this says? That if any Indian ruler signs without a natural son, then that state cannot be inherited by an adopted son. In such cases, that particular state will be annexed by the British. Okay, so that is called as doctrine of lapse. So two most prominent policies for political expansion of British in India was, that is subsidiary alliance system and doctrine of lapse. Like states like Awadh, Tanjore, Hyderabad, Satara, and states like Nagpur, Jhansi, Bharatpur, Sambalpur. So these are various states which were annexed under subsidiary system and doctrine of lapse policies, right? So this is the topic called the political expansion of British in India. So one is through the method of policies and other is through wars. So through wars, as we already know, Anglo-Mysore Wars, Anglo-Maratha Wars, Anglo-Sikh Wars, conquest of Sindh, right? So these are all various battles they fought with Indian rulers and they annexed those territories directly. So annexation of territories through policies, annexation of territories through wars, right? So this is the topic of political expansion of British in India, right?